So today I wanted to discuss tolerance versus compassion. So I picked up a poetry book from Amazon and I found this poetry to be so uplifting, and I found a poem that I want to read, and it is Compassion versus Tolerance. It's by Kyli Santiago, and it is called Healing Yesterday's Tears, an inspiring poetry book about overcoming emotion and discovering love of self. So I wanted to read the poetry first. Compassion versus tolerance. No, I wouldn't say lack of compassion. Lack of tolerance is more like it. I know it sounds extreme, but I keep going over it in my head, and it's lack of tolerance. My belief and in practice in life has always been, even when I was small, to honor my soul, and anything that goes against that, I have no tolerance for. I never have and I never will. Now, is this lack of compassion of which you speak? I have to look at that. But come to think of it, no. I do not have the capacity to endure anything that conflicts with my soul's desire to be free. I don't, because anything opposite of that is selling my soul, and I refuse to do that. It's deep, but it's true, and it's how I feel at this moment in time anyway. Fine. You really want to know what it is? I see through the false satisfaction that cannot be masked, but constant refusals to the call that cannot be contained, into the facade of true happiness. I see that you make yourself love him. That's why you stay. You settle because you're scared to do you. So you cling to the first decent guy to come your way. Or so you thought. We all have our issues. Bless his heart. I see that your need for security has spilled over into your need to control things, to mold and shape your environment and the people in it, when really you need nothing. I see through the evil that keeps you down, that makes you suffer, that you cannot control, that does not love, and I see nothing, zilch, zero. I see that the promises are empty, the attachments false. I see that you do not need the satisfaction that you seek. I see through the chains that bond you. They are clear, and the moment you see through them too, you will be free. But you have to look through eyes of consciousness and see with more awareness than you usually do. This is some real shit I'm talking here. Where was I going with this? Oh yeah, compassion. I see all these things and so much more. So much more so that I'm embarrassed to admit almost. But what you don't get is that because I see these things, I feel these things. I feel your pain. I feel your desperation. I taste your self-hatred and disdain. I understand you need to feel good about something in your life, so much so that you'll make it up. And this, I have not the capacity to endure. This, I cannot back you on. I cannot agree with you. My soul will not allow it. So no, I wouldn't say lack of compassion. Lack of tolerance is more like it. I know it sounds extreme, but I keep going over it in my head, and it's lack of tolerance. So with that, I want to start to discuss compassion versus tolerance. So I want to start by defining compassion and defining tolerance. So compassion is a sympathetic pity and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. Tolerance is the ability or willingness to tolerate something, in particular, the existence of opinions or behaviors that one does not necessarily agree with. And I also want to define expectations. So, expectations are what we want to happen in the future. Certain actions we wish someone would take or an event we wish would happen. I love the poem because it allowed me to think of relationships as creating boundaries and expectations. And I think that it is so important, and it was so important in my life at that time to create boundaries and expectations for the people that I have in my life and that I want in my life in the future. So when those boundaries are crossed, there can be communication had. When expectations that were discussed are not being met, conversations can be had. Because in relationships, there should be certain expectations that you should have. You should expect respect, because anybody should be giving you respect, and you should be giving respect to other people. You should respect love. You should respect intimacy. These are all things that are expectations that need to be in a relationship to survive and to be healthy. Another good point that she brings up in the poem is settling or tolerating things because we fear being alone. I suffer from this, and I will say that I really did have to come to an aha moment because I realized that this was one of my main problems. Like, I suffered being alone. I always needed someone to be there with me to help me get through things. And I came to the conclusion after my recent divorce is that I didn't need anybody to be with me or to love me because I needed to love myself. I had not been single, if it's crazy, but I had not been single since I was 14 and I'm 25 now. So I had not been single for over 10 years. When I left my divorce, I felt like I had no identity. Like, my identity was in the marriage. My identity was with my ex-husband. When I left that marriage, I felt like I didn't even know who I was. I never allowed myself to be alone. I never allowed myself to think about what Brianna wants, what Brianna needs, what makes me happy. So that's so important in a relationship, is just to continue to focus on yourself and not to tolerate things. When I was in the marriage, I started to accept things that I shouldn't have. And that was because of the lack of self-respect and self-love that I had for myself. So if I could preach anything today, it's to say that to continue to love yourself, even in a relationship, you should be number one. Never allow yourself to be number two or number three or whatever. Because if you do that, when relationships fail or when things aren't going the way that you want, you'll know. Because you'll know your expectations, you'll know yourself, you'll know what you will handle, you'll know that you will not accept this because you know who you are, you know what you value. So you won't accept anything less than what you deserve because you love yourself and you have compassion for yourself. And I think that's what matters. Compassion for yourself first. Your time, your space is so precious. You know, I feel like I lost so many years of my life because I was focused on someone else and I wasn't focused on myself. I didn't show compassion and love to myself because I was so busy giving it to other people. So, if you want to buy this book, I have it on Amazon. It's going to be linked in the description. It's a great read. It really is. It's a great read on finding yourself and learning to love yourself the right way and the best ways. You'll realize so many things about yourself and so many things that you haven't been doing to love yourself in abundance, in overflow. That's what's important, to give yourself so much love you strangle yourself or with this love. That's how I want to feel. So, thank you for watching. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and be sure to click the bell to get all the notifications on when I upload. Thank you for spending your time with me and starting your self-love journey with me. I would love to keep growing with you guys. Bye.